The Case of the Missing General Chapter 4, Dorian and Frederick Meet. Hurrying to her car, Dorian gasped as she checked the clock on the dashboard. She had only 15 minutes now to get to the coffee shop on time. Fortunately, the end of the day traffic had turned out to be lighter than usual, allowing her to arrive, not only on time, but with 5 minutes to spare. She parked quickly and after stepping inside, immediately spotted a man sitting near the front window who she thought might be Frederick. He was wearing a blue pinstripe suit and had short brown hair that was slightly graying at the temples. Dorian was about to approach him when he noticed her and waved. "Hello there. I am Frederick Eisenhart. Would I be correct in assuming that you are Dorian Starnes?" Dorian nodded in the affirmative and headed over to his table. "Hello, yes, I am Dorian. It is nice to meet you." Frederick smiled and stood up to greet her more formally. "It is nice to meet you too. I tried picking a location not too far from the Daily Investigator and I have always liked this coffee shop." Dorian nodded again as Frederick resumed his seat and she sat down across from him. "I like it too. In fact, Stephen and I have been here a few times for dessert and coffee." Just then the waitress came to the table and set down a cup of coffee and a cinnamon roll in front of Dorian. Frederick must have noticed her look of surprise and hurried to explain. "Oh, I do hope you don't mind. I asked the waitress to bring that for you when you arrived." Dorian appreciated his thoughtful gesture and smiled. She definitely did not mind. "Thank you, Frederick. I make it a point to never turn down coffee and dessert." Frederick laughed and Dorian found herself laughing right along with him, and for a few moments they sat drinking their coffee and making small talk. However, this light-hearted moment did not last long as Frederick's demeanor soon grew more serious and he eyed her soberly. "I am enjoying our time together and I find myself wishing I was not so pressed for time. Unfortunately, I can't stay very long." Dorian nodded, feeling quite sober herself again as Frederick continued, "What I am about to share with you is top secret information, but when you told me your name on the phone I knew I could trust you. You see, General Armstrong and I are actually colleagues and he has brought your name up on several occasions, especially when talking about his daughter Sheila." Dorian caught her breath in surprise at the news and braced herself to hear more. She was not sure if Frederick had sensed her surprise, but he did pause for a moment and gave her a questioning look. "Are you entirely sure about this, Dorian? Because no one would blame you if you changed your mind." Dorian, having already considered the risks, set her jaw resolutely before answering. "I really do appreciate your concern, Frederick, but I am quite sure, and I have come too far to turn back now." Frederick nodded, still looking sober. "I was fairly certain you would feel that way, but I wanted to be sure before we proceeded. The General and I have been working together on a classified project involving the possible existence of interdimensional portals, a most controversial subject as I am sure you can imagine. Well, I must tell you that as a scientist I was not initially in agreement with the General's decision to release our findings to the public, at least not this soon. I was hoping to attain more substantial data first, and there was of course the rather serious matter of our being told to wait, but the General strongly believed that the public should know right away, and so, as you know, he went ahead and filed the report." Dorian's heart skipped a beat as she wondered just how much trouble the General was in, especially since he had filed the report against orders, and her voice shook slightly as she spoke. "It is just so hard to believe that the General went against direct orders. But I suppose that does explain a lot." Frederick leaned in further forward as he continued on in a near whisper. "I admit that at first I was quite taken aback as well, and even upset about what the General had done, but upon deeper reflection, I do believe that he had to follow his convictions. That is why when I learned of the General's upcoming investigation, I had a hunch that some local newspaper reporter might be brave enough to report on the story, and well, let's just say I had a strong hunch that I needed to contact Mr. Steedinger and give him this. Dorian's heart skipped another beat as Frederick then, without another word, produced a large business envelope from his suit jacket and slid it across the table to her. "Consider this my contribution to helping you find him," he said quietly, maintaining a serious demeanor. Dorian's eyes widened as she glanced down at the envelope, the weight of it implying more than just paper. It felt like a piece of the puzzle she desperately needed. "What exactly is in here?" she asked, feeling a mix of apprehension and excitement. "Inside are the findings that the general compiled before he went missing, along with some correspondence between him and a few contacts that might be relevant," Frederick explained, his brow furrowing. "I feel quite certain now that there are forces at play that want to bury this information, entities that do not want the truth about these portals to come to light." Taking in a sharp breath, Dorian carefully slid the envelope closer, her fingers trembling slightly. She felt both empowered and overwhelmed at the enormity of what Frederick was suggesting. "Frederick, if the general's findings are indeed as groundbreaking as you say, then we're not just looking for a missing person," she replied, her mindset shifting. "We're potentially exposing ourselves to powerful entities who might go to extreme lengths to protect their secrets." Frederick nodded solemnly, his gaze unwavering. "Exactly. That's why discretion is key. We must proceed carefully. If anyone discovers that we are investigating this matter, especially if they find out about the envelope, we could find ourselves in significant danger." Dorian felt a pang of fear but quickly suppressed it. She had already crossed a threshold, there was no turning back for her now. "What do you suggest we do next?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "We need to analyze the documents within the envelope. I've already seen a few references to research facilities that may have ties to the general's work on portals. If we can uncover the general's last known whereabouts connected to this project, it might lead us to him," Frederick said, his enthusiasm palpable. "All right, then let's get started," she said, a spark of determination igniting within her. She grabbed the envelope and opened it, carefully removing the contents. The documents were filled with complex diagrams, research notes, and snippets of conversation that hinted at something much larger than mere science. She flipped through the pages, narrowing her focus on a particular section that referenced a secret meeting scheduled for the weekend, the very weekend the general had gone missing. This is it," she exclaimed. "He was supposed to meet with someone from the government. If we can find out who this person is, we might be able to trace his steps." Frederick leaned closer, scanning the documents. "Yes, and there are also names here that could be significant. Contacts who have worked on this project before." He trailed off, his expression turning grave. "Dorian, we should tread carefully. If their involvement is as serious as I suspect, then they may want to silence anyone who knows too much." "Then we need to be smart about this," Dorian replied decisively, shoving the documents back into the envelope. "Let's look into these contacts, but we should also be discreet. Maybe start by reaching out to someone who has worked with the general on past projects. Someone who isn't a part of this current investigation yet." Frederick nodded. "I have a few names in mind, people who may still be loyal to the general. We'll need to meet in private. I suggest we use my lab unattended for now. There's enough space there that we can brainstorm and confront this mystery without drawing attention." Dorian felt a surge of adrenaline. "Let's do it." She could feel the weight of the world resting on her shoulders, but she also felt a sense of purpose. She had to save the general, Sheila, and Stephen, whatever it took. This wasn't just about 3 missing persons now, it was about uncovering a truth that could shake the very foundations of their understanding of reality. As they stood up from the table, Dorian picked up the envelope, clutching it tightly. With Frederick by her side, and a growing sense of resolve in her heart, she felt about as ready as she could be to dive deep into the unknown and uncover the mystery of the case of the missing general. There was no turning back now.